The piercing ring of the bell echoes through the hallway as the others frantically push their way through the crowd to get to class. I feel my chest begin to tighten as I wipe my hands on the coarse threading of my school pants. I hate crowds. I hate the bustling of the school hallways. I hate the disapproving glances of the others as I shrink past them. I'll just wait for everyone else to get to class before I walk down the hallway. Wait, no, I don't want to be the last one in. Finding a crack on the tile floor to focus on, I intently glare at the shallow abyss to avoid the judgmental eyes. I find my seat in the back corner of the classroom and sit down, avoiding the others on my walk between the rows of desks. The teacher begins her usual test day lecture. No talking, no noises, no distractions, whatsoever. Before the last syllable of whatsoever even rolls off the teacher's tongue, I feel my stomach begin to coil like a snake preparing to strike. The teacher has finished passing out tests by now, but I can't even bear to look at the paper in my hands. I set my test down and try to reorganize the pencils on my desk to better suit the occasion. Every time I readjust the number 2 pencil on my far left, it's still slightly crooked. Too far to the left. I move the pencil again. Nope, too far to the right this time. I look up at the clock, realizing I've officially spent 6 minutes and 32 seconds on readjusting my writing utensils. 6 minutes and 33 seconds. 6:34, 35. My counting is interrupted by a sudden pang of fear. No, not right now. Don't do it. My stomach continues to tighten until my entire body has become a coiled spring. Last time it happened, no one talked to me for a solid month, apart from the taunting and constant interrogations. Can you just stop that? It's really annoying, was one of the most common ones. One of the nicer ones. Some told the teacher, which just got me sent to the principal's office, or a lengthy lecture about the inappropriateness of my actions in class and how they'll impact my future. I tried explaining that I can't help it, that no matter what I do, eventually it happens. I can't hold them off any longer, but the others still don't seem to understand. At this point, every fiber of my being is on edge. I'm paralyzed with the fear of ticking in front of my classmates. I'm tired of being that weird kid. My heart races like it's trying to break free from the grasp of my ribcage. With a wave of panic, I realize that I can't hold it back any longer. I have to tick. I spring out of my desk, and my face crunches itself up as if I've taken a huge bite out of a lemon. As my body leaves the desk, my mouth opens, and before I can close it back, a bird-like tweet escapes from my lips. I feel a wave of relief course through my body as the tick passes. That is before 23 heads turn in my direction, and one pair of furious eyes glares at me as if she can see into my soul. What did I say? No noises and no distractions, the teacher yells. I feel my cheeks growing warmer at an alarming rate. By now, my face is a deep shade of tomato. I sink further into my desk, wishing that the ground wasn't there to stop me from going even further. Why can't I stop it?
So obviously, that was a really extreme scenario. However, many with a disorder known as Tourette Syndrome often experience those emotions that hopefully you guys got to experience during that story, including my little brother whenever he was first diagnosed when he was in the 3rd grade. So I'd like to ask you guys, where have you first heard of the disorder? At the time of his diagnosis, I didn't know what the disorder was. He didn't know what the disorder was, and neither did the rest of our family or the school. And it eventually got so bad that he even had to be taken out of the school setting because of the lack of awareness. Now, some other common forms that maybe you've heard of the disorder is online videos or social media, maybe a TV episode. Maybe you've heard about it through a scholarly article, maybe friends or family like me, maybe some other form, or maybe you haven't heard of the disorder before today. So it seems like most of y'all are picking online videos and social media and TV, which is actually in the general public a really, really common way to learn about the disorder. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of Tourette's guy. Tourette's guy, whenever you go into the YouTube search bar and you start typing in Tourette Syndrome, one of the first things that pops up is this guy. He doesn't have the disorder, nor does he display any realistic characteristics of the disorder. He spends the entirety of the videos yelling obscenities for laughs, which creates a stereotype of Tourette syndrome that all it is cursing, which isn't the case at all. Now, there are some forms of social media or TV episodes that do portray the disorder in a slightly more realistic way, like South Park. I know what you're thinking. South Park, really? Don't they usually make fun of what they're talking about? And while yes, this is true, they are satirizing Tourette syndrome, they do at least give some accurate information on the disorder. Like you can see here in the posters, there's a poster that says, "It's not your fault, it's genetics," and some commonly associated disorders like OCD and ADHD. And the common theme throughout the entire episode is that people with Tourette syndrome can't help their tics. It has nothing to do with what they're thinking, and they can't help it. So the Tourette's guy talks a lot about cursing. That's all he does in the videos. And he's got millions of views, he's got t-shirts, he's got memes made after him. He's really popular. However, he doesn't even have the disorder. So he creates this idea that all Tourette syndrome is cursing. Now, there is a very small percentage of people with the disorder who have what's called Coprolalia, and that's the cursing part. So the media portrays Coprolalia to be 100% of Tourette syndrome, which isn't the case. So what percentage of people with Tourette syndrome do you think have Coprolalia? So the correct answer is actually only 10% of people with the disorder have Coprolalia. And even those with Coprolalia, that's not all their tics. So not all of their tics involve cursing or saying something socially inappropriate. They have other tics in addition to that. So it's only a small fraction of those with Coprolalia, which is also a small fraction, who have this cursing part. So the media portrays this huge stereotype that isn't true at all. So we've talked a lot about what Tourette syndrome isn't. So I'd like to ask you guys, what do you think Tourette syndrome is? So here are some common responses. You've got a neurological disorder that causes people to involuntarily curse. It's kind of a giveaway. Same for the second, a contagious disease that causes people to curse. A hereditary neurological disorder whose symptoms are known as tics, or overly active allergies that cause people to blink or sniff repeatedly. And so the correct answer, that's really awesome that the majority of you guys got it. It's a hereditary neurological disorder whose symptoms are known as tics. Now, the last option is actually what Tourette syndrome is commonly misdiagnosed as, because some common tics involve clearing one's throat or sniffing or blinking, and so it looks like allergies. And since not that many people know about the disorder, they usually just get misdiagnosed. So what are tics? Tourette syndrome is a hereditary neurological disorder whose symptoms are known as tics, but what are tics? Tics can be a myriad of things, and here are some options. And I'd like y'all to pick what you think tics are. So the correct answer is actually B. It's a symptom of Tourette's that can be any word, phrase, movement, or combination. So tics are really variable, and they also vary from person to person, and a person's tics change throughout their lifetime, which makes it really hard to diagnose because everyone's tics are different, and then also that same person's tics change throughout their lifetime. So who's more susceptible to tics, to Tourette syndrome, boys or girls? There's not much research out there about the disorder. However, we do know this one thing, that one of these categories is more susceptible. It's awesome that 84% of you got this. It's actually boys. Boys are 3 to 4 times more likely than girls to have Tourette syndrome. There's not much research, so we don't really know why, but we do know that one thing. So how many people have been diagnosed, how many young boys have been diagnosed with Tourette syndrome? So the diagnosis process for this disorder is ridiculously extensive. Since not many people know about the disorder, you have to go see neurologist after neurologist after neurologist just to try to figure out what's going on. And it's not that rare of a disorder, as you'll soon find out. For instance, in the case of my brother, we had to go all the way to Houston to find someone who even knew how to diagnose it, which is ridiculous. So the correct answer is actually 1 in every 1,000. So even with this extensive diagnosis process, that usually results in only the most severe cases getting diagnosed, because think about it, you're not going to go through all that trouble of seeing neurologist after neurologist after neurologist if it's not that severe of a case. Even with that being said, 1 in every 1,000 boys in America have been diagnosed with the disorder. So I'd like to ask you, how many children are estimated in the US to actually have the disorder, whether they've been diagnosed or not? So I'll let y'all take a moment to answer that. The correct answer is actually C. 1 in every 160 children in America are estimated to have the disorder. So that compared to the 1 in every 1,000, that's over 6 times as many people who are diagnosed as actually have it. Think about that for a second. If there are 7 people here with Tourette syndrome, 6 out of those 7 won't even get diagnosed. So this is a really common disorder that not a lot of people know about. So even those who have been diagnosed with the disorder, there aren't that many effective medication options. Since, like I said, Tourette syndrome is so individualized and so different for each person, it's hard to treat as well. And since not many people know about the disorder, there aren't that many clinicians trained in therapy. So the medications not only don't really work for every person because it's so different, they don't work for that same person for a long period of time, and all of those medications have really awful side effects, like fatigue, weight gain, depression, and more. And so those side effects have to be treated with more medication. And those medications also have side effects. And so then those side effects have to be treated with medications. And by the time you're done with this, you've got a whole cocktail of medications that are relatively ineffective to begin with. So what can we do? There aren't that many clinicians trained for therapy. The medications don't really work. So we first need to consider what factors can increase tic severity and frequency. What things make Tourette syndrome worse? Before we can even address the problem of how do we help, what makes it worse? So it seems like the majority of y'all are picking E, all of the above, which is correct. Fear, anxiety, fatigue, all of these things make Tourette syndrome worse. They make the tics happen more often. So like in the story, whenever someone tries to suppress their tics and they try to hold it back, they'll end up having a whole series of tics, and it'll be much more disruptive in class. So if we know what the disorder is and we know not to react dramatically to tics, we can actually have a more productive learning environment for everyone, not just those with Tourette syndrome. So what can we do to help? You can remember to not draw attention to tics. Imagine whenever you have to sneeze in class and trying to hold that back. It doesn't really make much sense. You can't. Whenever someone sneezes in class, you say bless you and move on. The same should be said for people with Tourette syndrome with their tics. They should be able to tic and you move on and don't make a big deal out of it, and it won't even happen as often. We also need to spread the word. Talk to your peers, talk to your teachers, talk to your parents, talk to your friends, talk to people who aren't here today to learn about the disorder. Spread awareness about the disorder so that this can spread to other schools and other people will know about it. You also need to remember that tics don't reflect what the person is thinking. They can't control what they're saying or what they're doing that involve their tics. And finally, if you have Tourette syndrome, don't be afraid to talk to your peers and talk to your teachers. They're there as a support system for you. And since Tourette syndrome is so individualized, this is vital that you go and talk to your teachers so you can work out specific accommodations that are best for you. Now, I have one other thing. I'm hosting a walk for Tourette's awareness in April. This is going to be really awesome. We don't have all the specific details worked out yet, but you can buy one of these really cool t-shirts, even if you're not going to the walk. They're $20, and I'll email you guys a link where you can buy them, and you can wear those with jeans to school one day, and then you can wear those to the walk. Right now, we're probably thinking it's going to be like around the track, and then you'll have like music playing, and there'll be water and food, and you can wear these t-shirts, and you can go raise awareness. In addition to that, all of the proceeds for all the extra money for the t-shirts and for the walk go towards the Tourette Association of America so that we can raise awareness about the disorder and teach others, train teachers on how to react to tics, and then hopefully stimulate research for the disorder so we can have more research so we'll actually know more about the disorder. We'll be able to create more effective medications. We'll be able to train people to have therapy options. With my little brother, it's been 5 years since he was diagnosed. He's now, since we as his family know what's going on, the school knows what's going on, and he knows, we're able to talk to his teachers, and he's actually been able to go back to the school setting because of the increased awareness that we know what it is. But it took 5 years. So hopefully with this, and if y'all come to the walk and you raise money and raise awareness about the disorder, we can hope to have that same positive experience for other people with Tourette syndrome and with other disorders too, hopefully just in a shorter time period. Thank you.